Welcome to the eWay Services training video for pulling apart a computer. The required PPE gear you're going to need to do this task is a set of earmuffs and a set of safety glasses, as well as safety boots at all times when you're on site. The required tools is a high-powered drill, a pair of scissors, some pliers, various screwdrivers and a hammer, as well as some security fittings for your drill. There's all different sizes. This one here is your standard tower. You'll get small form factors, high towers, servers. You'll find that by starting at the back, once you undo the screws, the various outside screws, as well as the power supply screws, once you get into the computer, you're going to find it easier to pull stuff out. That's the main reason why we start at the back, is it's the fastest process to get into the machine. Okay, as you can see, I've gone and taken all the screws out of the back. You'll notice that a lot of things have sort of started coming loose. So your next step is to actually open up the computer by pulling off the sides. The sides are classed as light gauge. It has no plastic on it. It's basically just metal. So the thickness of the metal is actually why it's called a light gauge. So you take this bit and you put it in your light gauge bit. Alright, so now I've got the sides off the back. I'm going to turn it quickly to the underside. The reason being it's the underside, you can't see the motherboard or anything else. So the front of the CD player, where that is, you'll notice on the side here, there's actually a couple of screws that hold that in. That's your next step. Alright, so as you can see, I've now got the computer on its side. I've disconnected all the back, taken the panels off. I've undone the screws on the other side. Once you've got it open, you actually just firstly want to pull out the cable. So just disconnect all the cable wires and then pull out the power supply. There's the power supply. Set that aside for a moment. We'll come back to that in a minute. Just keep pulling out all the cables. Next thing you want to do is undo the screws at the top here. And pull out the CD-ROM. The CD-ROM goes in the appropriate bin. Hard drive. This one goes in the appropriate bin as marked as a separate product. Alright, and then as you can see, most of the cables are gone. Now you pull out the RAM sticks and you have a quick look to see if it's PC3. So as you can see, written on the little label just here, it says SD RAM, Hynix 256 megabyte PC133. That there is really old RAM. It's not something we'd keep for resale. This would go to scrap. Now at the top here, just down here, there's some screws for the PCI cards. You want to undo those. These are mid-grade boards. They just come out like that and go on the mid-grade boards to be reclaimed the gold and other various metals out of it. Second last thing to get the board out, you'll notice down in here there's a whole bunch of screws. Some of these screws can have like starlight fittings. Most, however, are just Phillips or Posi drive. So that's that one. In this case, I'm going to put an extension in, make it easier to get to, and undo the board. Just the board out. Take my scissors, a little bit of cable, chop a bit of cable out, turn it around, break the plastic off. That'll go in your plastic bin. All you're left with is just this light gauge steel casing, which goes in your light gauge. So as you can see, we've now just got the motherboard by itself. There's various types of heat sinks that are usually on it. When we do the boards, they have to have any metal bits taken off it. And the easiest way to do that is a flathead screwdriver. Put it under there and twist. That there is a heat sink. It's aluminium. Pays to chop or ply little plastic bits off. Then that way that becomes clean aluminium extrusion. That there goes in the appropriate bin, classed as aluminium extrusion. Secondly, just here, you'll notice that there's a little clip. They vary on different computers. This one is a clip that you use the side, pop it. Just put, pop, twist. So once you've removed the heatsink, you pop out the CPU out of its socket, and that goes in the bin marked CPUs. So you can see the CPU, that goes in the CPU bin. That there is now one completed motherboard computer. This here is a mid-grade board. All computer boards are mid-grade boards. It's just that anything that comes out of a computer, we call a mid-grade board. Anything out of a server is classed as a high-grade board. This here goes in your mid-grade board bag. We've got a few little bits and pieces we've got to process just before we go on to the next computer. We chop these off, just like that. So we've got nice clean cable that goes in that marked bag called cable. Put your flyer through these. This type of cable is a ribbon cable, as it's nicknamed. And the reason why we're chopping the plugs off is because these have a scrap value. I'm just going to chop this out. The fans out of computers are a no to electric motor. They go on the appropriate electric motor bin. Now we're just left with the CPU heatsink. Chop the cable off. Plugs on this one here, that is what we call a brass duty plug. Bit of cable. This here, as I've stated before, any fans out of a computer, they're classed as a no to electric motor. They must be kept only with no to electric motors. This here is a power supply. We then chop out as easy as you can. You'll find that there is a bin allocated for just power supplies. And then we just chop out the plugs. All the white plugs off any power supplies are always dirty brass plugs. Make sure you got all your tools that you started with back next to you so you can go on to the next computer. Just have a quick tidy up. Start your bench nice and clean and then go on to your next computer. Heaps of different heatsinks. Some don't have any orange on there, which is the copper, as you can see in that one. But if you hold it up, you'll see the pipes going through it. Just inside there's actually some pipes you can see if you hold it up to the light. That is copper alley steel. That there, different type of heatsink. You can see the copper, you can see the aluminiumite. That is clean copper alley. As you can see, there's no little bits of metal on it. Another bit of copper alley, different shape again. Nice and clean, there's no actual metal on it. Another type of heatsink, this one's just straight aluminium, just so you know what it is. But you can see the metal on there. This metal shouldn't be on there when you're processing. It needs to be taken off. And the easiest way to do it is with a set of pliers. That's just straight aluminium. That's how it should go into the bin. Still touching on heat sinks. If it's got copper and alley, that is called copper aluminium. Once again, it can't contain any metal. So if you've got little metal pins, you snap them off or break them off. Please do that as you're processing. And obviously with all the different types, they all go in the copper aluminium bin. All these, once again, aluminium extrusion. Some that are scrap and some that aren't scrap. So the easiest, anything that's got a ceramic base like this is scrap. And what you want to do, what we actually look out for is i3, i5 and i7 CPUs written on here. There's a little bit of writing. CPU comes out of the CPU socket when you're disassembling the computer. It's usually got a little bit of paste on it, so what we do is we just give it a rub and then have a look at it, and it'll say something along the lines of Intel Core i5, for instance 3570. If you spot one of these, that's a keeper, and it does not go in the scrap drawer. It might say i3 and have 3 or 4 different numbers behind it. The same with i7s, it'll have i7 with 3 or 4 different numbers. Those numbers represent the generation of the CPU, but what we're looking out for mainly is i3, i5 and i7 CPUs. When you're disassembling them, keep an eye at them, put them aside. Alright, so just checking. It's Pentium 4 scrap, it's an AMD Pathlon scrap, Intel Xeon scrap, there's an i5, it's a keeper. So that's CPUs. Like obviously we collect up the CPUs and these get sent away for final reclamation of the gold. You would have noticed before when I showed it in the video earlier, we're looking just at that there, and what we're looking for is usually along the line of, let's see it right there, it says 2GB PC3 and above with 2 gigabytes or more we keep. So that one's a keeper, that one's a keeper. This one's a 4GB PC3, we would keep that. If it was to say PC2 or DDR2 or DDR1 or DDR, those would be scrapped. We're looking out for anything that says PC3 or DDR3 and above, 2GB and above. If it's a 1GB stick, it goes in the scrap RAM. But if it's 2GB and up for PC3 or PC4 or DDR3 or DDR4, then we would keep these aside because these are sold separately to the scrap CPUs. And the same applies to laptops as well. If you do find that you can't find it on a card, sometimes it'll be like maybe a Kingston RAM or a few other ones, and you find it really hard and it doesn't really clearly say that, then that's okay. You would just put that RAM in the scrap pile. Okay, so that concludes the training video for how to pull apart a computer. Just a couple of final notes I want you to know. Firstly, at the end of every day, please make sure your workshop area, floor area, your disassembly bench and everything is clean, tidy, and ready for the next day or the next person to utilise that bench. And if you have any questions after the conclusion of this video, don't hesitate to ask. Thanks for joining us for the e-waste services training video on how to pull apart a computer. Now, as a final, I'm just going to pull one straight start to finish, and so you can get the timing that is expected to pull apart a computer. An average computer should only take you about 3 to 5 minutes maximum. So here we go. Another quick note, just quickly, if you do get one with the fan, it goes in with electric motors. No metal, done. Sometimes in the case too, case point, if these get threaded, just throw them straight in the light gauge fan. Alright. Done. Cut.